And with that, we are going to get into our first guest for the evening. She is uh, Shako Verris. She was
Very
the
Shako.
number Verris Shako. Did I say your name backwards? Wow. Okay. I'm so sorry. Verris Shako. Because I saw the Shako first on her thing. She was the number one vote getter in the
Yeah.
primary for the three slots
Yonkers City Court.
available
Yeah.
for Yonkers City uh,
City Court
court
Judge.
city court judge position. And I said in celebrating our history and stuff, one of the things that really impressed me about Yonkers City Court, in particular the city of Yonkers, is alone for years, our courts have looked like a room. Our courts been filled with white men. That's just historically what it's been. And the courts didn't reflect what the communities looked like. And last year, celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, we had our first Latina city court judge last year. Elena Goldberg Vasquez. Did I say her name? Yes. She won last year. And this year we actually had not one, but two African American women win the primary. You've met Karen Best. We had her on a couple weeks ago. And the number one vote getter was Verris Shako. And we welcome her back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes,
no
welcome,
problem.
Verris.
Thank you.
You're a little low. I don't know if it's your mic or, and I'm hearing somebody fiddling in the background. I don't know what that is. Sandy Barnaby said, yes, the time has come for change. And Cheryl Blue Brownlee said, thank you all. Yes, Bobby. Diagnosed.
Bobby.
Yeah. even the little girl here, Aria, when she sees it, she goes, Bobby! Yeah, so yes, I do agree with Sandy. The time has come for change. I think people have spoken over, especially over the last few years, with the 2018 midterm elections. You saw the change of the color of Congress, with a lot of firsts, a lot of women, a lot of people of color, a lot of your first Hispanic. I mean, not your first Native American, your first this, your first that. You had a lot of firsts, and it's a beautiful thing. So I'm looking forward to the work that you do on the court in Yonkers, and I hope that Yonkers. I want to give Yonkers one more shout out too. Yonkers is actually leading the way. Yonkers is the first city to have a Black Lives Matter mural posted in front of their city hall of the 43 municipalities. While everybody's having rallies and all this other stuff and talking about Black Lives Matter, they were the first to actually, they're doing it all over the world, all over the nation, and even all through New York State. But in Westchester, we never had one until Yonkers stepped up and was the first. So Yonkers is actually leading the way. Right, Yonkers is leading the way in a few places, and again, the new face of the court is another encouraging thing for the city of Yonkers. So shout out to Yonkers as a whole, all my Yonkers people. So,
yep, it's really amazing because I've practiced in Yonkers City Court for the last 15 years, and I have spent my career defending and protecting the rights of many of our residents, just everyday citizens who could not afford an attorney and some who could. And so to bring that perspective to the bench, and to have someone who knows what the issues are, be able to sit on the bench and make rulings and judgments from that point of view and that perspective is really important. I think for far too long, it's been a lot of, political deal making. So I think it's really important. This is a big year. A lot of people came out people who probably wouldn't bother to come out. But this year, people were excited about it. They were excited about the new candidates, and a lot was going on in the world also. And they realized that this is the time we take a stand. And when we take a stand, things like this happen where people like myself and some of the other candidates who were elected, who were successful for the first time in their primaries, we were able to be successful because people stood up, they came out, and they voted their conscience or their voice.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I muted myself because I have some dogs barking in the background, and I know last time that started but the dogs here started Lorraine's dogs, so we tried to eliminate that. So it was like the dogs were talking to each other via screens, so I'm trying to eliminate that. Lorraine, would you set off some questions real quick? I'm trying to silence the noise in the house. Would you set off some questions for?
Yeah, sure. First of all, congratulations, Madam Judge, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I know I saw you on election night, and you was running around, and you was working really, really hard, and you made it to all the polling sites. You thanked everyone that was out there working, and making sure that the vote got out. And my question to you is, how did you feel when those numbers came in and you came out number one? I mean, that, and don't be modest now, because I know I would have been like,
I couldn't believe it. I was really hopeful. We worked really hard. Like, we were all out there from 5:30 a.m. on election day. And we were just asking, please vote, please come out and vote. And so I was just ecstatic. I was in shock. I was in disbelief. I mean, we've never had an African-American female get this far, and that it was happening. Like, I was in complete shock, and I was just so happy. And I know that I've been really fortunate, to be able to connect with so many of our voters and have them support me, and support the work that I've been doing and support what I'm about, and that they were willing to come out. And as you remember, Lorraine, some of these lines were really long.
Yeah.
We had 9 polling stations that were open in June. People had to wait online for 2 hours, and I had to wait online with them sometimes, in order to get in. And it took a while, and we had to convince people to stay, that it was important. You need to voice, who you want for judge or whatever office it is, rather than have someone else vote in your place, because they may not be voting for the same people. So we made it clear that it was important, and we just asked them, please stay, please vote. And I was just really, really happy and excited and a little bit of shock, that it all worked out. And I just know how lucky and fortunate I am to have so much support and to have the support of the voters. So I just want to thank them, and also thank you, Lorraine. I remember our conversations, what you said.
Yeah.
You were exactly on point, and I called you back and recited it to you. And AJ and everyone else, you have just been supportive, allowing us to get out there, get our face out there, get our message out there. And so people can know that they have options, options who represent their point of view, who've been standing with them side by side in court, just fighting for fairness and dignity, and to be treated respectfully and given a shot at being equal when they come before the court. And so for people to see that you can be about that, but if you can't get that message out, then you can't get anywhere.
That's an interesting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
That's an interesting perspective what you talked about, because you're going to be sitting on the bench, and the majority of the people that are going to come in front of you are going to be our brown and black folks, and you're going to, of course you're going to follow the law, and you're going to rule as you should, but there's another level of understanding of the person that's in front of you that you're going to have. It's a blessing. It's a gift. It sometimes it might not be, because you might have to rule in a situation where you got to rule. because the law is the law, and if they broke it, they broke it, you know?
Yeah, and it's a community, you know?
Yeah.
And what happens in the court impacts people who live in the community. I live here. I have kids who are here in the community, family members, and we all want to be safe. You know, I've spoken with different people from our society, including like the mothers, you know, who lost their children from whatever different circumstances, and they just want justice also alongside that person who is accused of a crime, and just want to be able to know that they're treated fairly and equally. Someone may be accused of a crime, but it doesn't mean that they're guilty of that crime, or that the prosecution has proven that crime, or that they're actually guilty of the crime they're charged with, you know. And it's just getting to treating them fairly and equally as they go through that process. That to me is what I'm concerned about, and that's what I'm fighting for.
That's refreshing and good to hear, Dr. Bob.
Yes, so Judge-elect Shako, welcome to the show. I have to say that I bear a minuscule responsibility for your election this year. I am I'm actually a resident of Yonkers and did cast a vote for you and your yes. So I will mention, just because I want to be able to bask a little.
I take it every vote counts, and
yes, we all want to count.
And we gotta do it again in November 3rd. We gotta do it again on November 3rd.
And you don't even have to wait until November 3rd. You can.
Oh no, October 24th for me. Yes.
October 24th to November 1st at the Will or Riverfront Library. Saturday,
Thank you for that.
12 to 5. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 to 4. Tuesday, Thursday, 12 to 8. Let's do it.
There you go. There you go.
Right, and I should add,
She's ready.
I got my my early voting, so everyone should be looking out for new communiques from the Westchester County Board of Election about procedures to follow in the event that you want to do the absentee voting, or where the locations of your polling places are, because we will have extended hours apparently, early voting in New York State. This is at least I'm only initially aware of this this year. So yeah, I wanted to ask you, Ms. Shako, I'll call you Ms. Shako because Judge-elect is still slightly premature, but in any case, Ms. Shako. So I'm curious to know, you said that you have like 10 to 15 years of experience representing people in the Yonkers City court system, of course, on the opposite side of the bench. And I was curious to know, how will that experience influence how you deal with people who appear before the court? Since, as Lorraine already indicated, as we all know, you're still constrained by the law. It's not like you could say, well, I'm not going to enforce the law. But I'm curious to know what kind of latitude you may have once you get on the bench to make decisions that have an impact on people's case. Like what does that look like? In other words, what besides the rulings did you feel like maybe some of your clients weren't getting?
Well, like I said, in representing members of our Yonkers Westchester community for the last 15 years in this court, what I came to see consistently is that people just wanted to be treated fairly. They wanted to be given the benefit of the doubt that someone perhaps from a different zip code might get. They wanted also, and their zip code where they live. They want to be treated the same as someone from a different race, someone from a different socioeconomic background. And I think that's what I bring. I've represented members from all classes in our society, at all levels in our society. And that's the one thing they wanted in common. And I think what I bring is the ability to look at someone and treat them fairly, look at their cases, know that they want someone who will review the cases, who will be fair, who will not be biased because of their background or the way they look or their socioeconomic status. And I think, you have to follow the law. When there are options for programs, you can do that, but it can't be missed, that there is a need or a want for just fairness in our courts. And, Lorraine talked about who's in the courts. That's indicative of some issues. And we can only address those issues when you have people who have represented members of our community for so many years and knows what the issues are, and know at the end of the day, people aren't looking for a pass. They're looking for fairness. They're looking for equality, what we should all have. And that's what it's all about.
Got you. Understood. Well, I want to say.
Go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say I'm happy that you emphasize that, Ms. Shako, because I think all too often people make the assumption wrongly that when a person of color is elected to the bench, somehow or the other there's a risk of a compromise of legal rigor. And I think we all agree that what everyone's looking for, as you said, is to be treated fairly in the system. We're not looking for judges to overlook people's wrongdoing. We just want to be treated fairly and to know that our members of our community do in fact get justice when they go before the bar. So we're really enthused at the prospect that you'll be seated soon, and I'll shut up now.
I'm praying and working and praying.
We understand. We're praying for you.
Thank you.
We had a comment from the an audience member, Justice Starks. I'm sorry. Says Shako is amazing, and she's all about the community. Please come out and support her.
Thank you.
That's our biggest cheerleader.
Oh, okay.
That's our biggest cheerleader.
I'll say this. Like I said, I've practiced in this court for 15 years, and I've gotten to know a lot of people, and just really, like I said, like it shouldn't even be said, but basically just fought for this person to be treated just like that person and that person. And I not only did it in criminal court where your livelihood is on the line or your license, but also in family court where your family is on the line, protecting your family or having custody of your children or having, an order of protection to protect your family, or maybe not having one if it shouldn't be there. And really at the end of the day, like I really enjoyed getting out there and being with the people I've represented. And it's not just one kind of people, it's all kinds of people that were out there. And to see, our residents in their community, fulfilling their lives, living out their lives was really fulfilling to me and gave me a better perspective, I think, that I would bring to the bench in terms of who's coming before me, not just what I've seen in court, but also what I've really had an opportunity to see while out on the campaign trail.
One of the things that encouraged me when I first interviewed you, when I first got to know you a little bit, was that your as Bob said, your 15 years previous work in the court, it gives you an opportunity to be able to know how to navigate the court. You've been involved. You know the players. You know the people. You know what I'm saying. You know the makeup of the people that come through. You're very familiar with the court itself. Specifically Yonkers City Court, the court you will be sitting on, where you'll be sitting. And I think that's very important because a lot of times judges from the outside come in and you know what I'm saying? And that's nothing wrong because sometimes you need outside perspective with no allegiance to anybody. But I think it's very good that I think it'll give you a slight advantage in how to navigate the court. You've seen the court from several different levels, and now you'll be looking at it from a different view. Instead of looking towards the judge, you'll be sitting out looking at the people now. You'll have a whole different view of the courtroom, a view that very few have had the privilege of having. So I'm definitely encouraged by that. I know there's a lot of questions I can't ask you, that you can't speak on. And Lorraine, you got any more questions? Did you want
to? Well, I think Dr. Bob has. I do, but I think Dr. Bob has questions.
I was just gonna. I know I speak on behalf of everyone here, including Ms. Shako, in saying that we're deeply saddened by the news of the passing of Associate Judge Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I wanted to, I'm curious to know, I'm sure you are saddened like most of us, but because you are a member of the legal profession, I was curious to know if the Associate Justice's record, long record, that many of us are just learning about, including myself, has influenced you any. Do you see what parts of our legacy do you think remain undone that you can help to carry on at the local court level?
Good question.
Great question. I mean, definitely, I've said this, at different interviews, but I was definitely motivated to become a lawyer initially because I wanted to stand up for the rights of women. So I was that young. I thought I was an activist, but some people might probably view me as being annoying, who was just saying everything needs to be fair. It needs to be equal. If a couple is buying a house, the wife's name should be on there. And this was me at like 13, just talking to like my aunts and the women around who would, be willing to listen. And as I grew older and saw there were additional issues, in the world that I wanted to fight for, I knew as a teenager I was going to law school, and I was going to law school to fight for the rights of others. And I finished high school with that in mind. I finished college with that in mind. And when I graduated law school, I had an opportunity, I think I mentioned it before, to work doing personal injury. And I let that go, and I chose to go to the Legal Aid Society, and I fought for the rights of others. And that was from the very beginning, handling serious felony matters. So I think, for women, we definitely need to keep pushing. We need to break those glass ceilings. So I have a daughter who's 6 and a son who's 4. They shouldn't be breaking these glass ceilings anymore. We should, the work is still here. It still continues, and there's support that's needed, and there's communications that's needed also. So we understand that women need to be in all of these decisions and in all of these roles, and that this shouldn't be something new. I would like for it to be normal and commonplace when our kids want to go into some of these jobs and not be still, be a trailblazer 20 years later, as a city court judge in some city here in Westchester. It should be normal. And so that motivates me. It motivates me as a woman of color, to keep pushing to achieve this, because I know it'll be easier for the next person who's going to come along. And I'm going to encourage other women of whatever background. You should do this also, because I know it makes it better. And our boys benefit from this also, because these are going to be their wives. These are the people in their society. And so
I won't say I want me a wife like that. That's another show, but.
Well, you're going to have to deal with her. Get on board, and, she can speak softly, or she can speak not so softly, but if she intends to get it done, she will get it done. And it's important. I think we need to have role models like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and like myself and so many other women. We have Andrew Stewart Cousins and so many other women who are breaking, barriers and grounds and glass ceilings in our community. And we need to continue to do it so we have more women in these positions in the future.
Absolutely. I think that's very important for our youth to see these examples. I said when Obama was in office, I was living in Atlanta. I was married. I had 2 stepdaughters. They were actually the ages of Obama's daughters. And I would remind them that for the first time, they could see a picture of the White House that included someone that looked just like them. Those little girls were their age. They were 2 years apart. Exactly. And something that none of us had saw. We saw Amy Carter, and I can't even think of the rest of the kids that were in the office when we were kids. You know what I mean? We didn't see ourselves in there. And I think that's very important. But I also want to say, one of the other things that also inspired me to when I got to know you, we always, this is Black Westchester, so we uplift the achievement of the Black and brown community. But we shouldn't vote for people because they're Black or brown. I would rather have, like Damon always says, I'd rather have cops of conscience than necessarily just cops of color. You know what I'm saying? You know, so you know, we did uplift. You know, you were you know to be the first and this, that, and the other, but you were the #1 vote getter. Period. You know what I'm saying? And the people spoke. And it wasn't just because you were a woman. I'm sure there were some that, you know, that encouraged some, because we had that, we just voted because you're just women. And some were black, or black women, and voted because of that. But that still won't get you over the top. Like, people saw something in you, you know, and they let their voices speak. And I think that's great. And I've got, in various interviews I've done, I got to know that you're more than just a person of color. You're more than just maybe possibly the first black woman. You're more than just a woman. You're more, you know, your conscience is what we need in the court, period. And that no matter what you look like, no matter what color, and you're a person of conscience. And I just wanted to uplift that. And that was one of the things that made me feel refreshed when I got to know you.
Thank you. And it's what really motivates me, you know, it's not easy work, you know, doing this kind of work in court and so long. And I can say it's to me, it can be burdensome, you know, because you're dealing with someone's life, you know, or someone being incarcerated for 4 years. That's not an easy decision to make, and that you have to put the work in. You know, so you know when it's you and this person in a courtroom that you're ready and you're as prepared as you can be. Same thing for a family court, a custody or neglect. You put the work in because you know how important this is. You know how important it is in your life. And so you understand it's just as important in this person's life. You know, and that's what I've spent my career doing. And even though this was a challenge, I knew it was worth it, because I knew what was on the line for so many people.
Right. And that's important that you said that. Like, I can only imagine that aspect of it, about being a judge. I know as the editor of Black Westchester, I have to be careful with the way I tell certain stories. Like, after George Floyd, there was a young man, Kamal Flowers, that was killed by the New Rochelle Police Department, young black man. And I knew, and I had to be careful how I articulated that story to the people, because I knew I had the power to light the match to burn the city of New Rochelle down if I was to tell it a certain way. So I had to show a certain responsibility and know that. I know it's different, but I know I can. That's the only thing I can attest to it. You know, I don't have people's lives and whether they go to jail or not in my you know, but that I can understand the level of responsibility. And you know, talking to you, interviewing you on this show and other shows, and listening to other interviews, I felt confident that you would be a person that could handle that responsibility. You know, we talk about Black Lives Matter and Brown Lives Matter and stuff like that. One of the biggest things we can do, beside the marching and the protesting, is in our voting. And voting for people who look like us, or at least have our interests in mind when we go to the ballot. This is one of the biggest things you can do, nonviolent things you can do to help criminal justice, is voting in your city court judges, your district attorney races and stuff like that, your county judges. Those are things that you can do to help change the way the courts look. And it's one of the most nonviolent things beside marching and protesting that you can do to help affect the change. And we have to get to that point where we realize that, and when we casting our vote, the responsibility of our vote. And you know, I just want to throw that out there with everything that's going, you know, in the movement. Any further questions from Lorraine or Bob?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
We are a product of our environment. We
Absolutely.
all know that.
We're a
product of our environment.
Yes.
Yeah. I was born in the projects. I was born in Slowbound. I was raised in Southwest Yonkers in a Latino community, in the Latino hood. You know, I I was raised to basically be a gangster. That's how I was taught. That was my culture. That was my environment. There were a lot. My mother had 11 kids. She was a single mom. A lot of us, most of my siblings, actually all of my siblings, other than two, I lost two siblings to the streets. They were murdered in Yonkers, in Southwest Yonkers. I lost two siblings. But my question is towards the court. I got in trouble. I still get in trouble. But when I was younger, I got in trouble. And the judge put me in the task program, which was treatment alternative to street crime program. And there were these wonderful women that were there. And I would show up, and then I would get put in. I was pretty bad. These women were so patient with me. And they held my hand, and they would yell at me, and they would say, Lorraine, you got to stop doing this because we're going to get in trouble. And had it not been for their love, their support, their patience, and their guidance, I would not be where I am today. Now, I'm still rough around the edges, but you know what? I've met presidents. I've got about 2 dozen Trailblazer Awards, like you mentioned. I'm sitting here as a co-host of Black Westchester. I mentor young women today. I mentor young women that live in my community, and they listen. And I see little miracles all the time. When a young lady, whether she be 13, 14, 15, and she says, not today. I'm not going to sleep with you today because this is my body. Or I'm not going to let you hurt me. Or you're not going to treat me like that. And yes, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get a job. And I'm going to be like this one. And I want to get educated. And I see these miracles. I call them miracles. Not because I don't believe they can achieve them, but because of where they come from. They're not, statistically, they're not supposed to be where they are. So my question to you is, what is your opinion? I don't even know if the task program is still around or it's under a different name. What is your opinion regarding these juvenile programs? And are you a mentor, or are you going to join an organization that mentors?
So task is still around. It's been there the entire time I've been in Yonkers. It's called Treatment Alternatives for a Safer Community. And
they changed the name. Okay.
Yeah. They took out the street crimes, and they just say so. But I think it's really good. And it can be good, and it can be helpful in the right cases. So you have someone who's never had a case before. They might send them there for an evaluation to see what they need. And once that person is compliant and they show they don't need help, or, they go through a program and they successfully complete it, then a good attorney would ask for maybe an ACD. So this is, once they stay out of trouble, they have no record. Something like that. So it can be used to help people. And that's important if they're willing to comply. But sometimes it can be used to have people get into programs where they really don't need the programs, and if someone is working, it can tie up their schedule also. So it can take on different, impacts on a person's life. In terms of programs and policies, I'm in favor of any and every program that will give someone an opportunity at rehabilitation, give them an opportunity to be home if that is safe for the community, and just give them an opportunity. What was that?
No,
just give them an opportunity to get back on their feet. I'm in favor of all of those programs, and we have different programs that are around that are utilized by the court, and the court will do like substance abuse. They have mental health. They have domestic violence, different kinds of core programs for the different needs of the people. So I'm in favor of all of those as long as it's appropriate. We don't want to send someone with a drug case to DV or like as long as it's the right program for that person.
Okay.
In terms of being a mentor, I've dealt with different organizations. I'm definitely open and willing to do some mentoring. I certainly encourage and push people, and I've been pushed myself. And I'm here because a lot of people have, supported me and sat me down and give me advice. I'm also not afraid to ask for help. And I think that's really important. Like I have no shame, in my cases and in my personal life. If I'm dealing with a case for the first time and I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to research it. I'm going to talk to people who know how to do this case. And you might see me in a courtroom sitting down learning how to do it, because when I do it for my client, I want to make sure I do it right. Okay, so ask for help if you need help. That's something I believe strongly in. And I help those who are on their way, just like I was helped along. And my success is based on other people lending a hand to get me here. I'm willing to do that for others also.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm particularly pleased to hear you're so receptive to alternative sentencing programs for people who find themselves in the unfortunate position of having to come before the bar because, well, I was a beneficiary of the leniency of the court. As a matter of fact, the present district attorney of Westchester, Scarpino, actually presided over some sort of criminal proceeding I was involved in. I was fortunate enough to receive probation, a 5-year term of probation. But I did want to say, like Lorraine, I'm happy to hear that you're receptive, and I want you to know that I'm Dr. Baskerville today precisely because someone who was in the position that you will one day be in afforded me some leniency, and I'm sure you're going to do the same, not just for me or for Lorraine, but because you
young
understand.
People other people who come before the court.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's very important, and I think that's one of the things in having the court. Hello, having the court. I'm sorry. This is the home edition, so we got the noises from our homes. So but it's very important to have the court reflect the community, look like the community, and even in a case where you don't have as many black or brown representation as Yonkers will have, but still having people who understand the community and who understand the makeup of the community, and that's very important, especially in cities like Yonkers and Mount Vernon, that where a lot of the people, like Lorraine said, that's going to hit that court are people that look like us. I've never really had a lot of dealings with the criminal system, but I always say that I am here and not dead or in jail because of other people, older people who took the time to put something, to see something in me and tell me that I didn't need to be where I was and push me to do better. And I say to all our listeners, and I say this all the time, we say that our youth is out of control. If our youth is out of control, is it really our youth failing us, or is it us failing our youth? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of us are here because of older people who, and we just heard a lot of examples, older people who, pushed us and pushed for us to be better and sold something into us and had patience with us. And, sometimes we don't always pay that back in our generation now. And I see that being one of the biggest problems. We have to work with our youth. We have to, sow something into our youth. We have to give back so that we're pushing the next Dr. Bob's, the next city councilwoman of Yonkers. You know what I'm saying? The next editor or journalist. You know what I'm saying? So it's important that we do that, and I'm encouraged to hear all that. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want people to know, other than, of course, we'll go out and vote? early in voting on November 3rd. That I didn't ask you because I know once you win, there will be a lot less things that I can have these kind of conversations with you because of limitations. So, is there anything that you would like to express or anything I did not ask you?
Well, I'm very thankful for all the support from you and Lorraine and Black Westchester. Thank you, Dr. Bob, for your support and your wonderful words here in the interview. I am fortunate to have the support of so many of our residents so far, but the race is definitely not over. It is still contested, so I am asking you to come on out and vote. I have an event coming up on Tuesday at Dos Marias in Yonkers. It's a phenomenal women's fundraiser event, and I was fortunate to have our first female majority leader here in New York State, Andrea Stewart Cousins, our state senator, Shelley Mayer, Mount Vernon's first female mayor, Sean Patterson Howard, Lisa Copeland, Mount Vernon City Council president, Corazon Pineda Isaac, the majority leader in Yonkers, and Shanae Williams and Tasha Diaz, who are councilwomen, put their names on the flyers to support me at this event. So please, if you have some free time, come on out and join us. Other than that, please come out and vote. It is extremely important. This is a major election. Don't just vote for president and walk away. Don't just vote for Congress, vote for president, vote all the way down the line in all the races. It will have a huge impact and it will bring a major change here in Yonkers. We have everyday candidates, everyday values on the ticket, and please vote for Shako for Yonkers City Court Judge.
And that's very important. You make more change. It's important to vote. It's very important to vote in this presidential election. And it's very important to vote in this congressional election. But you actually more change, you can affect more change in your local elections. They have more say on your day-to-day life, your mayors,
right.
your judges and all that and everything, your district attorneys. I do want to make one correction because a lot of people and we try to always educate people. So Sean Patterson Howard is not the first woman. She is the first woman elected. Because like Andre Wallace was temporarily placed in a place of mayor without being elected. There was a woman who, and I forget what
Carmela Iannone.
Right, and she sat there because of a mayor, I don't know if died or was removed or whatever, it's to fill out a term or whatever. So she's not the first woman, but she's the first woman elected, and she is the first African
woman elected
and she is the first. Right, and she is the first African American woman. So I just, we always want people to say the right things, and we always try to educate people. But a lot of people say that the first woman. I want everybody to know there was a woman briefly, but who served as mayor, just wasn't elected. Yes, people are talking. The people are talking. One of our guests said. Cookie Alexander Campbell said that's exactly right. You learn from your parents, your community. People need to help these youth, like our church leaders need to get involved. And Cheryl Blue Brownlee Fox said, yes, it takes a village. Charles Stern asked, and I never got to it. I don't know the answer to it. I don't believe so. Has anybody received their Has anybody received the absentee ballot yet? I don't think I know you can request them. I don't know if they went out yet.
I haven't heard that anyone has received them. Right. My understanding was that they would be mailed 32 days before the election. So that would be early October.
Right, because we're still 50 days or close to 50 days at this point.
I don't know if they're going to make any adjustments because of the issues with the post office. Yeah, but the back of the absentee ballot application says it's mailed 32 days before the election.
I just wanted to say, and I wanted to take, because that question came up, I'm making this recommendation. First and foremost, if you can, do the early voting in person. If you cannot, or go out November 3rd. If you cannot, and you absolutely have to do the mail-in ballot, for reasons, for whatever reasons, request your ballot now. Do not wait. get it as early as possible. And when you get it, return it as early as possible, because there are games being played with voter suppression and games being played with the slowing of the mail. I don't know what future things are going to be put in place to be a stumbling block for especially persons of colors. So get it as soon as possible, request it as soon as possible, and when you get it, send it back as soon as possible. If you do that right away, you don't have to worry about how long it's going to take to get there. You definitely will get it in on time.
And you can also, you don't have to mail in the application. You can request your absentee ballot online.
Right.
So if you go to my website, shako2020.com, it has the link to the Board of Elections website. You go there and you just put in, it requires your county, your last name, your first name, your date of birth, and your zip code. And you can put in your request for the absentee ballot. It's mailed to your home. And like you said, you fill it out, vote for your candidates, and mail it back right away.
And lastly, for that, let me just 1 second, Lorraine. Lastly, I just want to importantly say, I know Paul Finer is the town supervisor in Greenberg, has requested drop-off boxes to be in front of the Greenberg Town Hall, and I would ask all of you make these requests of your elected officials, your local elected officials, that they also make these same requests, because that is a safer way of making sure your ballot gets to where it needs to get to without having to worry about the mailbox. I mean, we have to worry about the postal service and the delays that may come if you have a drop-off location and you can just fill it out and just drop it in that location. You know what I'm saying? I think that's another thing, and we need help from our elected officials to request that. Last words, Lorraine, and then we're going to get into our next guest.
Last word. It's a question for you, AJ. Westchester, we endorsing Verris Shako for judge and for the general election.
I wasn't going to do endorsements until closer to the election, but and we will do it officially. But Black Westchester People Before Politics is actually endorsing all three of the candidates that won for Yonkers. We'll do something. And Lorraine was not supposed to ask me that now, but
no, because we had another candidate, and you said it, and it's only fair.
Okay, so we are officially going to do that. We'll make it closer to the election, and we'll have you on, and we'll make a big thing of it. But yes, officially, we will be endorsing the three candidates that won. Yourself, Karen Best, and Dan Romano. We will be endorsing all three.
Thank you so much.
And not necessarily because it's a ticket. Y'all won, and that's who we were behind. I'm support all three of y'all. So
not only that, but they're the best. Right. They're going to be excellent judges, and we need them on the bench.
Thank you so much.
Last words, and then I got to go into my next guest.
Come on out and vote Shako.
Okay. There you go. Thank you. We'll be in touch with you before the election on getting you back on, doing the endorsement thing and all that stuff. I